Well, welcome along to this interview, and it's something a little bit different for us here at Property Tribes. It was proposed by a property developer of over 40 years experience, John Howard, joining us on the call. And John made the introduction to Reuel Singh, who is, and I've got to check my notebook so I get this right. Reuel is a psychological illusionist and a clinical hypnotherapist. And John, as I said, you made the introduction for this interview.
Yes.
What we're going to be talking about, mindset of entrepreneurs, and I think this is even more important during the current situation that we're all facing with everybody in lockdown, etc. So, how did you meet Reuel? And you're going to be working with him as well, aren't you?
I met the famous man in a five-star hotel in London, and I was sitting there doing some work, and he was sitting next door with his agent, and we got chatting, and now we're good friends. And he did this trick on me. Well, it's not a trick; it's magic, isn't it? Where he got me to he gave me a load of numbers to plug in to my phone and times them and all sorts. And then he said, right, press the equal button, and I pressed the equal button, and my actual phone number came up on my phone. It was the most amazing trick I've ever seen. I thought, wow, this guy, I've got to get to know this guy better. And the great thing is he wants to get involved in property. He wants to do some property. So I'm doing some mentorship with him, and he's going to very kindly come on a live event for us later in the year, which we're going to donate any money raised to charity. So that's a great start, isn't it?
Well, what an interesting and random meeting. So
absolutely,
Reuel, tell us a little bit about your work, because I mentioned psychological illusionist and clinical hypnotherapist. Where's the crossover between those two?
Well, let's just say, in terms of the magic, I started off at a very young age. So I was a very shy introvert person when I was younger, and then I realized at a later stage that it's better to be the observed than the observer. So I started practicing and performing magic, sleight of hand. And after that, I began to put the tens of thousands of hours into mastering it and become great at that craft. And then eventually it led down the road of studying psychology, because it goes hand in hand with it. So reading about body language and micro expressions. So then I ventured over into the psychology side of things, and then the medical psychology, which it's amazing how it falls into place. And then later on, a little while later down the stage, maybe in my 20s, I started doing a lot more research on someone that I've followed for quite a while, his work, Paul McKenna. Mm-hmm. However, at this time, I never really looked into it too deeply. So what I did is I heard on one of his podcasts, I was listening to a thing called Glove Anesthesia, which there was a woman giving birth to triplets. And what she did is she contacted him, and she said that she wants help. So hypnobirthing, I'm sure we've all heard of it at this point now. So then what happened is, at that time, what he did is he made her visualize that her thumbs going numb, and then he elicited that same feeling throughout her whole body in order for her to give birth with ease with those triplets. So I found that amazing. And that's kind of what it got me hooked on hypnotherapy. Later on down the line, I found out that they use it in dentistry and even things down to open heart surgery, which is so powerful. So in terms of that, and then I decided that it would be a great idea to merge the two. So merge the magic with the hypnotherapy or the hypnosis. And it's been a great journey, because I've realized that it's taken me all over the world, and it's also opened the doors for me to perform in front of the people that are less fortunate, such as like the disabled children in Great Ormond Street Hospital, charity organization Cancer Research. I've even performed in HMP Felton Prison, which was a very eye-opening opportunity, because everyone's there they've done something wrong. They've done something, and a lot of the time they're unable to forget about that moment. They're kind of locked in their box, pretty much like how we are kind of at this current moment. Mm. So they're locked in that place, and especially in their mindset. A lot of it is to do the psychology. And rather than people saying, what is it that they've done, and how did they get into that state, or looking into their childhood or the kind of timeline, they just label them and say this person's bad, and rather than helping them out, they may have lost a parent, or they may have been abused as a child, or something like that kind of led to that moment. So what I did is I did a lot of background research and reverse engineering, and I realized that there's a lot of information, a lot of history behind it, especially down to human behavioral patterns and things like that. And I think it opened the doors up even more when I was there at H&P Felton Prison, and I realized that being able to perform magic to those people there, the people that was in the prisons, it brought them back to a childlike state where they first saw an entertainer or a magician, and you see them for that split moment, they forget about everything. They forget about the pain, the family that they've lost, the friends that they've lost, and they're in a state of shock, a state of awe. So that's what I really love doing when it comes down to performing. And then the people that are around them, like they could have been complete strangers before, and now I've just created a moment that they're going to remember for life. And also at the same time, now they could become best friends with the person that they was with, witnessing that moment.
Well, what a
Amazing.
wonderful story, and how rewarding to see those impact of what you were doing, and know that it has a lasting result. John, you know, we often talk about the mindset of an entrepreneur, and I think it's an age-old question. Is it something you're born with, or is it something that you can develop? I mean, I know in your case, you were very entrepreneurial from a very early age. You were doing, you know, you started off with your paper round and then working with your dad, and you seem to have that entrepreneurial mindset. But is it something you're born with, or something that you can also develop if you choose to go down that road?
I think it's a bit of both. So first of all, with the numbing business, I get numb when I speak to my accountant. He tells me how much tax I've got to pay. That's the first thing I'd say. So and of course, the psychology of it all, which we'll talk about in a minute, is so important when you're trying to negotiate a deal. And that's where, you know, he can help so many people in the property business. He could save them thousands, because if you can read other people and have that ability to get on with them and to negotiate with them in a nice way, you've got a far better chance of buying the deal at less money than you have if you're, you know, standoffish, obnoxious, or whatever it might be. And I always say, you know, you've got to be everyone's friend in the property industry, and Reuel can certainly help you do that. It could save you thousands. He doesn't realize at the moment, because we've only just started our mentorship, how much his skills can relate to property. And I'm really excited about it, because, you know, hopefully he's also going to be able to teach me how to get better deals too, and how to negotiate better than I do now. What I would say is this: I have people at my seminars who are naturally entrepreneurs, and they will make money, be it buying and selling anything. They just like that, and they want to get into property, and they find it quite easy, and I find it very easy to help them. The people, and they do things naturally. So things that I do naturally, they do naturally. It's a natural thing. The other type of people, the other type of person is perhaps a little bit more, sometimes a bit more professional, a bit more educated in some ways. And I don't mean to insult myself or people like me, more intellectual. And they find it harder to sort of relax a little bit into a deal. You know, it's all a bit too serious sometimes. And for them, what Reuel can teach them is very important. And I try and do that now. And some people just don't have it. And we've said this, we've spoken about this before, Vanessa, many times with these educators. You know, their attitude is anyone can buy and sell, anyone can do deals. And I pull people to one side, having been to my seminar, some said, look, I'm sorry, but I really don't think this suits you. And I'm just being honest with them. I'm not trying to be difficult. There's lots of ways to get involved in property. You don't need to be on the face, you know, the coal face, if you like. You can be one behind that. And for that, some of their skills are very, very good. I mean, my partner, who I'm with retiring, is, you know, after 30 odd years together this year, he's an accountant. Now, he's brilliant at what he does. He's been a fantastic partner for me. But if we swap roles, yeah, and he was out there trying to do the deals and I was trying to do the figures, it would be a disaster for us.
Oh, I get that. I mean, Reuel, you work with sort of lots of celebrities, and we all agree about having a positive mindset, but a positive mindset alone isn't going to necessarily achieve success. And I do think some people think, oh, if I'm positive all the time, I'm going to get somewhere. Well, yes, it will help. But what would you say are the other qualities of entrepreneurial minds? I mean, I would say, people that are always wanting to learn and grow, people that are looking, that are good problem solvers. What would you add to that?
I would absolutely agree with you, and I would definitely add to have an open mind to personal development and ongoing growth. You see, one thing I've learned as a therapist, as a clinical hypnotherapist, is that I need to be able to go into ongoing lifelong learning. So rather than just learning a course or studying or thinking that, which most people that have kind of given up on learning, there was a quote saying that if you quit learning, you're dying. So by ongoing learning, by me focusing on what's the next big project, what's the next way I can improve myself, self-development, personal development, whether it's the clinical hypnotherapy, whether it's even things in law, so understanding about things like handwriting analysis, or being able to understand certain things, being able to do your research and absorb it, such as speed reading and things like that, just to perfect what you're good at, and to be able to focus on the things that you love. So make it go hand in hand, whatever you're doing, make it go hand in hand with your passion, whatever it is. And then the other thing is, I always say to people that two things. I say to them, are you spiritual or are you religious? So I notice if they're spiritual, they're more open-minded, like myself. So it's more of like laws of attraction, manifesting your own reality. Let's just say they're interested in yoga, raw foods, plant-based, the herbalist approach, raw foods, things like that. And then the other thing, if they're religious, then it kind of stems down similar to like my mum, where she was brought up as a Jehovah's Witness, as a Christian, where she's got kind of strict inbuilt beliefs in her. So it's kind of, they've got their kind of set up, their systematic way of doing things. Now, from when you can understand that and adapt to that, and also I think a lot of it as an entrepreneur is understanding to be able to adapt. And also when you're meeting a client or a friend, or someone that you want to be your friend, there's a few books that I would highly suggest, especially some from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, perhaps, like that. I'm sure you've all heard of that. Yeah. So when it comes down to making a friend, understanding how you can build rapport with them, the tonality, speak similar, matching and mirroring tonality. However, I also think rather than doing it in a way that's rather than doing it in a way that looks kind of more of a comedy side of things, just you'll notice that twins do it, and best friends do it, where they're in sync with each other, heightened synchronicity, and they're able to finish off each other's sentences. So what I do is I merge that in with my shows, and it helps me. So what looks like mind reading, I'm really just kind of matching the physiology or the tonality of someone, and I'm speaking their tone of voice, or their tone, speaking their language. So if they speak in an auditory way, if they're saying that I hear you, that kind of means that they're more auditory based, that they get things processed into their mind by auditory. Or if they're a visual thinker, it's more of a thing where I see what you mean. So they'll use certain key phrases or certain key words. So I'll use certain things like that. However, it goes down to a few things. I've always been fascinated by people such as Sherlock Holmes. Now, although he wasn't an actual real character, real person, the things that he does, the art of let's just say, like looking down to it, like understanding how that works, the art, the fundamentals. I find it amazing. The art of deduction, to be able to see something and be able, or see someone, and to understand where did they last, when, where was their, what is it that they do, what they're thinking, even things down to people's micro expressions. I think that it goes hand in hand with relationships. If you can understand someone, if your partner is feeling low and he's feeling down, or she's feeling down, and the other person can't understand what they're feeling, then it kind of, it's mismatching. Similar to if they're interested in the dating industry. many years ago, I used to be involved in relationship coaching, and one of my mentors, Ross Jeffries, he was good friends with Milton Erickson, who started the whole hypnotherapy side of things in the early 70s. Now, in the 70s, they used to say it's evil and it doesn't exist. So it couldn't be both. It was kind of a bit of a taboo thing. Now, Ross Jeffries, there was a movie based on him, Magnolia, where Tom Cruise based his character on Ross Jeffries. And I believe now he's living in San Francisco. However, he's doing such a great job with his seminars. He's teaching a lot about the healing side of things, the therapy side of things, which is what I'm passionate about, and also understanding people in general, human relationships. So I find it very important and very essential for people in general to understand, especially to save them from getting their wires mismatched. And I think that's a key thing.
I'll tell you what, you must be the husband of the year. Goodness me, with all your talents, your skills, and being able to read your partner's moods and everything else. I wish we could all do that better. So that's absolutely fantastic. But what you're saying that really resonates with the property industry is that being able to connect with people. You know, I say to everyone, property is a people business. You need to be able to get on with as many people as possible, to know as many people as possible, and to communicate well with them. And that's exactly what Reuel can do and can help people do and train people to do it better. And that, people say to me, oh, how do you find so many property deals? What do you do? This, that, and the other. One of the biggest things we do is connect with people and be pleasant with people and get on with everyone. And if you can just do that, they say, don't they, when you meet someone, you've got how many seconds is it? 7 seconds to you make a decision about them, isn't Reuel? Within, is it 7 seconds or 5 seconds or something? And that lasts right. Sort of 3 months. So, you know, personal relationships is how you find deals, how you do deals.
Yes, I agree, John. And I also, and I'm sure that Reuel will add to this, but, you know, I think one of the traits of an entrepreneurial person is to be very open. And John, I see that in you, because despite all your wealth and your success and so on, you are such an approachable, open person. You do not, you know, put up barriers to people trying to connect with you. And I've always thought that's a large part of your success. When I first met you, you had no clue who I was, and you were so open and interested to talk to me and find out what I was about. And I think that's one of those traits of having that vibe. And, you know, Reuel might know that I used to work in television as a presenter, and I met many celebrities, and one that I was very keen to meet was Madonna. Big fan of hers, and I did have the privilege of working with her. And as soon as I met her, I could instantly see how she was so successful, regardless of her talent, because she's immensely talented, but because she was so open and friendly to everybody. She remembered everybody's name on the shoot, which
that is
you know,
very, very impressive.
Yes, it was.
And that's a trick that MPs use a lot, politicians use a lot.
Yeah.
And how they do it, I was told, is that, I don't know, Reuel, you can help us with this, because I'm terrible with names. So they when they shake your hand, they repeat your name. Is that how they do it?
That's correct. Yeah. So
right.
It will also it's more personal. It's more of a personal touch to that person. So say, for example, remembering names, also remembering certain things, remembering about the outfit, the hairstyle. What I do, John, is what I like to do is I like to anchor things, so connect things. In psychology terms, we call it anchoring. So say, for example, if I go somewhere once, I would kind of make it as it's a photographic memory, or it seems like photographic. And I think it's something that everyone can remember or learn. And there's a few different mnemonic systems to do that. So connecting the dots, or say, for example, if I was to go somewhere, I would remember a conversation with someone, and I would do that by, let's just say, if I was walking past a post box, a red post box, I would remember a certain conversation that I would have, and I'll put everything in place. And you kind of have to be very intricate and very detailed to that in terms of a conversation. You could ask me about the conversation which we had in the hotel. The conversation which we had in the hotel, and I'll be able to trace that back to you and talk about the stuff that you was doing and mentioning, especially about sitting down and the phone, showing you the phone stuff, and with your business partner that we had there as well. So it's quite interesting to remember and to link things, and I think it helps when you link. Say, for example, to make it even easier for you guys, if you connect, like, say, for example, if you're asked to think of 30 things and you connect one of the things, connect each one of them, but you connect the first one to something really bizarre. So it'll be a cat coming out of a hat, say, for example, jumping out of the hat, and then you do the animation in your head. You see, so you're not just remembering as a picture, but you're remembering it as an animation. And then also you can even make it as a rhyme as well. So it makes it more embedded in your head. Do you get where I'm coming from with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how on earth I remember 30 things in a row is totally beyond me. You're going to have to do it. You've got a lot of mentoring to do for me as well as the other way round. I can tell you, well, because my memory is shocking. But I agree with you. If you can remember people's names, I remember John Major many years ago. I was at the football club, Peterborough. We were Cambridge United versus Peterborough. I was a director at Cambridge for 18 years. And we're playing Peterborough away, and John Major, who's the MP for Huntingdon, was at the game, and he was in the director's box with us. And at half time, we were introduced before the game. At half time, he came up to me and he said, "John, would you like a cup of tea? I'm just getting one." Now, for a prime minister to say that to someone, and actually go and get him a cup of tea, I thought was remarkable, and remember my name, and that's always stuck with me because he's looked upon, apart from his little difficulty he had a few years ago, which came out, he's always looked upon as a very grey, uninteresting person. But actually, when you meet him, he really is very warm, and what a clever thing to do. Simple, kind, and clever.
And I would add to that, John, humble as well.
And humble, yeah, very humble.
That's an amazing story.
Jeffrey Archer, by the way, was completely the opposite.
But do you know what, John? So many people will not pick up the phone to somebody because they think that person doesn't want to hear from them. I mean,
crazy.
I just totally believe in randomness and serendipity, and to reach out to people. They can only say no,
Absolutely.
and if they do, that's obviously their decision. But I think particularly if we move on now to the situation that we all find ourselves in, in lockdown, we are hearing of people struggling with their mental health. We are, restrained from doing the things, important things like going to the gym that help with our mental health and seeing our family and friends and so on. And Reuel, what tips would you have for anybody out there watching this that is struggling a little bit through lockdown to maintain that positivity, to maintain that forward momentum? Because sometimes, even my own experience, sometimes I have days where I really struggle to see any kind of light at the end of the tunnel.
I understand. Well, it's actually interesting that you just said that, is because Paul McKenna released an article the other day where the title was called Coronaphobia, and I found it quite intriguing, to say the least. So one thing that I would suggest is what I do personally to make my confidence or to make my mindset more bulletproof. So it's kind of like Superman. When the bullets hit Superman, it just kind of reflects and bounces off of him. So what I tend to do is I write down I believe a lot of ladies do this, or if they're interested in getting a relationship or finding the right guy, what they will do is they write down specifically what they want in that guy. So the height they want him to be.
A wish list.
Pretty much, yeah. So what I would do is I would basically tell them to write down the things that they absolutely love about themselves. So say, for example, if it's the hair, your hair color, your smile, it could even be down to the things. It doesn't have to be the visual things, the aesthetic things. It could also be down to the things such as the way you make people feel, or the way you talk to people, your connection, your humor. It could be pretty much anything to do with you. And the more you write, the more bulletproof, or the more you feel like you're kind of like when someone else says something or brings you down, then the more you feel that you're more relaxed about it, you're more confident about it. So someone could say something negative, and you'd kind of learn to have a short-term memory about those things. So it helps to forget those things. And also, I like to tell people that people remember the beginning and the end of your conversation or your introduction. They rarely remember the middle, but you kind of can just distort it. A lot of people have time distortion as well with stuff. So I find it quite interesting that when it comes down to meeting people, and exactly what you said, John, and Vanessa, about being humble, I noticed that's one thing that I've noticed a lot of successful people in the industry or in various different companies and industries. It's the humble ones that are the ones that are really successful, and they understand the spiritual, to understand to merge how it merges the spiritual realm or the spiritual lifestyle with the physical world, the physical matter. And they understand it, and they've done their research. That's why they're so humble. They can understand people more. And it's quite interesting when I'm around them. But then there's other people that are more closed off, the negative or naysayers, they're not really too interested in being engaged with someone. But then understanding their language or understanding how they closed off that wall that they put up, it's easy to kind of pull it down or to break it down, where something could have happened to them. They could be closed. They just had an argument with their partner or their sibling or their parent, where they may, if you're out in public, and they may say something rude to you, or maybe step on your shoes or something that triggered that feeling, that emotion for them, that negative emotion. And then it could lead to ongoing a spiral effect for other people. So it's always good to I like to question things and to open it apart, and then to reason why is that person doing that? What's the why that person does it? And then once you begin to understand the reason why that they do it, it helps. And also listening into certain words that they emphasize on. So with certain things, like when it comes down to the psychology of cells, as you was mentioning earlier, there's someone that's inspired me, and I did have the actual opportunity to meet him, and his son, David Tracy, was Brian Tracy. And he's done really well. He's an inspiration when it comes down to those things. And it definitely helps when it comes down to going back to what you was mentioning about your confidence or being able to deal with feeling right or feeling not in the right mind frame. There's a lot of people that I deal with that have mental health issues, or they have anxiety or ADD or whatever they've been labeled by the doctor. And a lot of the time that is just a label. That is just a label, because I've noticed that I don't want to get too much into the medical side of things. However, I do notice that some people will go to the doctors and they say they're feeling a certain way, and they'll say, here you go, here's some medicine to suppress it, rather than looking into the kind of the deep base of it, if you understand where I'm coming from. So, and that's where I look into it from the herbalist approach. So that's why I say, if you're not eating right, if someone is it's difficult for me to judge one person or paint someone with the same brush, as they say. So if someone smokes, it's going to affect their physiology. It's going to affect the way they feel throughout the day. When they get stressed, they're anchoring that link. They're linking that to the stress. So, or if they've had a drink, then they'll smoke more. A lot of people say, when I've had a drink, I'll smoke a lot more. However, as a clinical hypnotherapist, when you change certain habits and rewire certain neural pathways, one thing that's quite interesting is how once you replace certain things like the hand-to-mouth fixation of cigarettes, replace it with a chewing gum. So throwing a chewing gum in your mouth, perhaps, that tends to help. And also, once you chew, your jaw relaxes and it makes you feel more confident and more when you're going out or you're about to take an essay or an exam. And if you chew, it also helps you feel more relaxed and more confident and pass it with ease, where you're not really thinking about it as such. So there's various techniques that I use, various different anchors, there are various different psychological techniques that I feel would definitely be beneficial to people. However, a lot of people are not aware of it. When it comes down to it, a lot of it is to do with your eating. If you've got poor health, you will have a poor mind.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, Reuel, because without health, you've got nothing, and you could build
Absolutely.
up a huge property empire and be worth millions, but
Yeah.
you're too ill to enjoy it. So
Yeah.
I mean, to my mind, health is absolute number one consideration. And just a couple of things that I found that helped, and John might like to join in the mix, is first of all, to have a feeling of gratitude for all the things that we do have. Like, I'm lucky to have good health. I'm lucky to have my wonderful husband and my cats.
I was going to mention the husband actually, but you beat me to it. And just in case you forgot.
So I have a feeling of gratitude every day for all the good things in my life, and that my parents are still with me and that they're healthy. But also, I think when you feel down, sometimes it's good to, if you know that somebody else is suffering, is to reach out to them and see if you can maybe help them a little bit. And you know, I think it's often called a random act of kindness. And I try and do one of those every day, and I find it helps me, even though I'm helping somebody else. So I don't know if you've got anything to add on that, John.
I always think exercise is such a wonderful thing, because it
Well, you've
just
got your
releases
doggies, haven't
tension.
you?
Yeah. I've got plenty of things to exercise. So if I have the time, so I think that's really good. And I think the other thing for me, I mean, by the way, everybody in property has had tough times.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter whether your portfolio is millions or it's hundreds of thousands or single thousands even. You know, we've all had stressful times, and I always look at it with when it's stressful, is that tomorrow's another day. I start again. I've had a terrible day today. Hey, it's over. Switch your phone off. The biggest thing I've started doing in the last year or two, because I've got so busy, is I switch my phone off about 7 o'clock at night, and I switch it back on again about 7 in the morning. And I find that mentally, not looking at it every 2 minutes, not the only time I don't do it is when I'm in a hotel. And I find that I don't do it because, you know, I'm in a hotel, I'm working in the evening maybe, and I don't do it. And I'll tell you what, the difference in stress by the time I go to bed, between working in the evening with my phone on in a hotel room and switching off at 7 o'clock and watching Coronation Street, one of my favorite shows. Don't blame me for that. That's one way I relax, funny enough. But a couple of other things that I think help is that, one, I always tell the children, you know, never argue by text or by email. And if you get a bad email, you know, a difficult email, don't respond immediately. Leave it an hour or two, because you'll probably be in a different frame of mind and say, you know, sod you or whatever, excuse the French. This is what I think. Just step back a little bit. I know it's not easy sometimes, but little things like that, I think, can make a lot of difference. But Reuel has come up with so many good tips there. I mean, my goodness, I've written a few down, but not enough. You know, amazing. And it's, like I said, he can help so many people in the property industry, because all those things he said are relevant to the business, completely relevant.
No, I totally agree. And I heard this saying the other day, micro stresses, which will be email, phone, text, you know, all the little things that kind of crowd in on us on a daily basis. And
sure.
I think you're right, John. It is good to detach from those. And, you know, I love reading a good book. That's always on my gratitude list. And there are things we can do when we can just detach. And I agree with you that going out into nature and walking and enjoying our beautiful countryside is so important, and I do think everybody should take advantage of their, you know, their daily exercise to do that. Well, Reuel, it's been awesome meeting you and speaking with you, and I think we've only really scratched the surface of this topic. And what I would like to propose is that, you know, we perhaps do something else with you in the not too distant future. But in the meantime, I would also like to invite you to join Property Tribes, because I'm hoping that maybe we've sparked some discussion points, because there's a lot of stigma around mental health, and there's not a massive amount of support out there, certainly you know, from the point of view of the NHS and so on, particularly because everything's directed toward COVID as well. So I would like anybody that feels that they've been affected by this conversation, or are affected by feeling down or, you know, isolated, I would like them to join this thread. And Reuel, would you be willing to come and share some further insights in that format?
Absolutely. When it comes down to it, anyone I can help, the more people I can serve, the more awareness we can create is better for the people in general. What people tend to do is they tend to sacrifice their health for working to make money. And then at a later stage, when they've lost their health, they have to invest their money in buying back their health. And by that time,
that's a very good point. I've got quite a few friends like that. Yeah,
that's a very
definitely.
very valid point.
I just really like to thank Reuel for coming on and being interviewed, because I think it's, like I said, it's such an important subject. You know, and if we can learn just a little bit from what he said, take a few nuggets, that in itself is worthwhile. And as I said, I'm sure, Reuel, if anyone wants to go further and deeper into what he does, I'm sure if Reuel gives us his email address or his website, people can then contact him direct, Vanessa, because I think it's such an important time at the moment to support people. And property people are no different. The community are no different from any other community. We all need support and help during this time.
Absolutely. Well, I will put Reuel's website address underneath the video as well, so people can contact him directly if they would prefer. But again, I do encourage anybody watching this that feels that they want to expand on this topic or share what's been helping them during lockdown, or share their thoughts on what makes an entrepreneur mindset and what the traits of an entrepreneur are. Please do dive in and join this discussion, and let's widen it out and include as many people as possible, because I agree with you, John, it's not discussed enough, and I think if we can create a platform where people feel comfortable to come and talk about it, and we've got Reuel to guide us with his clinical hypnotherapist background, I think it's a positive thing to do.
Fantastic. It's another part of your armory. That's how I see it. It's another part of the team, if you like, that you need, especially at this time.
Fantastic. Well done, Reuel. Lovely to meet you and have you on the call. And let's hope that we can do some more together. And we'll learn obviously more about how you and John get on working together, almost like an exchange of information, isn't it?
It's going to be good fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure and an honor speaking to you both.
Well, likewise. If you are watching on YouTube, whether it's on John's channel or indeed Property Tribes, we do invite you to click the subscribe button and smash the notifications bell, and do indeed like this video if you did indeed like it, and share it if you think it might help somebody else. But for now, it's the three of us signing off, and we'll hope to see you as we continue the discussion on Property Tribes, and I'll put a link under that underneath this video to that discussion as well, so you can find your way there easily. All right, cheers everybody. Thank you.
Bye everyone.
Bye, John. Bye, Reuel.
Take care, guys. Bye bye. Thank you.